now energy. How much of the total energy production in the world is from the new solar and wind, the renewable? Is it 1% today? Is it 5%? Or is it 10%? Unfortunately, it's not half. But how far have we come? Thank you very much. Now let's see the results. Now we go back here. And here we are. Yes. You answered like this. And the Swedish people, they answered like this. We used Novus, one of the best web-based survey companies we have. So you are pretty representative of Swedes. Did you choose them by random, these students? Or did they apply? Norway is like this, and the United States of America is like this. That's very interesting, isn't it? Especially if you know that B is the right answer. B is the right answer. And if I would put this at the zoo and I would ask the chimps, they would get 33% right, isn't it? So congratulations, you beated the chimps, but just with this little. But for half of you, and half of the population in these three countries, think that there is twice as many people in Africa today as it is. It's a very severe ignorance about the number of people in Africa. Africa has much less people than the general public around the world, and especially in Europe think. So there's much, this is good news, isn't it? There's much more soil and resources around for the Africans than half of you think. The number of kids, you answered like this. The Swedes answered like this, Norwegians like this, British people like this, Americans like this, and this is the right answer. The number of children in the world has stopped increasing. It's the biggest event in the history of mankind that ever was completely missed by education and media. It's astonishing, it's surprising, it's unexplicable. It's a big thing. Today we have 135 million births in the world, and that is as many births as we will get probably. This may be wrong because it's projection, but it's like climate projection. We discussed, they may go up and down. It's fairly sure that climate is changing. And this is much better. We have much better data on demography than we have at climate. In climate we have good enough to take action. So this is very strange. And here you just like the 33% for the chimps. You have random knowledge as a group on this. It's strange, and I talked about this advanced school courses. What the heck is this? This is the basic. You talked about feeding people, you don't know the basic. The number of kids has been increasing, now it's not increasing any longer. It is very important message. Education. This is what you thought, and this is what the Swedes thought, this is what the Norwegians thought, this is what the Americans thought, and this is the fact. There's not much difference in school. How come? Because activists have been very successful. And pinpointing that indeed there are, in a number of places still today, cultural barriers for girls going to school. But girls has been fighting. Their mothers have been supporting them. Organizations have been supporting them. And the bigger gender gap we have has passed. Activism works in getting things done, but not at communicating facts. They communicate feelings, emotions, but they don't communicate facts. Does this mean that gender equality not is such a big problem any longer in the world? No. The lack of gender equality is even worse now. Imagine now where problem arises at the age 14, first menstruation, then the girls face a completely different world from the boys. Access to education, especially primary education, is a very bad indicator of gender equality. It's the minimum. You know the limitations in life that comes after that. But now we have, the world is full of young 15-year-old girls just becoming women who have their ideas and who are stopped and so on. So by me communicating this fact to you does not at all tell you, gender equality is not a problem. You see the difference between having these emotions and being activist or being fact-based. What is the main cause of death in the world in young women between 15 years of age and 19 years of age? Pardon?
Childbirth.
I didn't hear.
Giving birth.
No, it's suicide.
Susan?
It's suicide. I told you they face a horrible situation. And you think of women as mothers? Are women here in the world to give birth only? No. They're here to live the life to guide the world and to make their enormous important contribution. And they are stopped from that. So I wouldn't call myself a feminist because that would be, I'm too humble to tell that. I'm too humble to say that because I don't spend much time on that effort. But I really, really accept the feminist findings in research and what it is. The main cause of death, 15 to 19, is suicide. Much higher in young women than in men in the world. And the main cause, the main method of suicide in the world for women in that age group, what is that? Agriculture and pesticides. This is the main health effect of agriculture and pesticides in the world, and the activist doesn't say anything about that. Because if you are activist in the environment, you don't care about gender disease. Activists are narrow-minded. That's why they are so successful. And we need activists. I've been an activist. We need it. But don't use activists for facts. Don't use them for facts. We have to realize that this is a real problem with it. And the more you label them with terrible labels, these pesticides, the more they're used for suicides. About 300,000 young women die every year from agricultural pesticides because they take them purposely to kill themselves. And you know, access to this increased suicide. Yes? They have an idea about it. This is what you answer, almost like chimps here, can you see? This is the Swedes answer, and this is what Norwegians answer, this is British, Little American. You can always see what the right answer is when you look at the Swedes. It's the lowest proportion of Swedes, what they answer, that's almost the right answer. So you who came to Sweden to acquire education, you can now start to wonder, was it the right trick? I mean, we at Swedish University, we have to take this serious. Right? I used to ask, if they don't know these things about health, who is the professor of global health in Sweden? It's me. This is what you said about vaccinations. This is what Swedes, Norwegians, and Americans say, and this is the right answer. We are vaccinating 83% of the children in the world. Governments works. Governments are serious. Governments are not mainly corrupt, they are mainly serious in the world. Aid works. Aid is not being used, it's used for vaccines. We're getting 83%, we are just not getting vaccines out in northern Nigeria. We just don't manage to support Sierra Leone and Liberia and Guinea to have health service in their remote areas. That's why we sit now with a huge and increasing Ebola epidemic. Because why did that spread, that epidemic? Because people didn't have anywhere to go. The first one who got Ebola, what did they go? They went to a traditional healer who used traditional medicines. Nice? No. It's horrible when you have a seriously deadly disease, you have to go to someone using traditional medicine. Traditional medicine you should use when you live in a very rich country, you have the perfect health service and you're still neurotic. Then you should go there.
Yes.
But you shouldn't go there when you have broken your leg. Or you're about to die in child delivery. You should never go to a herbalist then. It's a metaphysical thing. And this is not known. And then people want to debate aid. They don't know this great success. I'm very serious in this, and I'm criticizing mainly the professor of global health at the main university in this country, and it's me. It's my fault. Sorry, they came up here. Here you knew, 65% knew that child mortality is falling in Africa. That's very good. It's the right answer. Swedes, 26%, they didn't know that. You were clearly better than that. Congratulations. Child mortality is now falling in Africa, south of Sahara, as fast as it ever did in West Europe. Great success at present. We see no signs whatsoever that the climate change is affecting or stopping the enormous improvement of health we have. This is proven beyond doubt. Now, it could be that climate change has a negative effect, but the positive forces are so strong, so they even overcompensate. Haven't we had a small climate change in some small places, or in some areas, it would have been even better. That could be. But the trend is very clear. The world and Africa is going towards health. And they live 36 years. No, the right answer is 70 years. You see, in all these questions, you are about 25 years behind reality. It's just as if you would go to daycare center, you know, young students. You're behind, you have to upgrade, you have to know what things are today. That's why it's not a question of being optimist or pessimist, it's of being knowledgeable or ignorant. That's what it is about. Poverty. There, 56% of you know that poverty rate is 4. Poverty rate is very difficult to measure. If you say that climate change is difficult to measure, try to measure poverty rate. It's even worse. But the change is so big, so even with the uncertainty we notice, the number of poor people may not be falling. But the proportion is falling because the population is growing. And energy, These boxes, you should be very careful. They can be very nasty. Very nasty. So you actually like them, right? I'm going to Seattle next week. I'm going to tell my friend that I should take away these boxes. Only 42% of you know the tragic facts. The tragic fact. And here, I have to now. This is it. Common PPT slide on next. Continue quick. That's dangerous. Swedish result, Norwegian result, and British result. I give up here. I try this one. You see, you are almost more optimistic than the public. There is only 1% solar and energy. It's very small. I use this stupid voice because then you remember. Do I make fun of solar energy and wind? Not at all. They have huge potential. They are really, as far as we can see now, the solution for the future. They are really the solution for the future, but they're still very small. And now you get carried away by the activists again and think that we have reached far. We haven't reached very far. The world is run on fossil fuel. 80% of energy is fossil fuel. It's not changing. In Stockholm, the power station in Stockholm is still burning coal as of this year. Still burning coal to make electricity for Stockholm in spite of our nuclear power and our hydroelectric. It's not changing. But the SIDA, the Swedish International Development Agency, situated 1 kilometer away from that power plant, they don't allow poor countries to burn coal. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. Clean up at home first. And money here, country groups. Now I'm going to switch over and give you. So what you told me is that my day is easy. You are on average as a group about 25 years behind time. So let's see a little how the world is and how it looks like today. Here we are. Why did not this work? The people. We have these 4 parts of the world. See how I divided the world? To help Europe, I had to put in Turkey and Russia and Europe. And otherwise, Europe doesn't have a chance. And I made the Australians Asians. After all, they have to get used to that. The 7 billion, 1 in America, 1 in Europe, 1 in Africa, and 4 in Asia. PIN code 1114. Remember the PIN code. Because this is basics. The world is Asian, and there are not so many people in Africa. You know, this course is about agricultural improvements in Africa in a sustainable way, and half the ones in the room think there are twice as many people in Africa as there is. It's interesting, that was the only answer in which you were 40 years ahead of time, or 30 years ahead of time, overestimating the number of people. 2050, there will be no more people in Europe and America, 1 billion more in Asia, and by that the population growth in Asia will stop, and there will be 1 billion more in Africa. Africa will double up to 2050, more or less. And then we have the 9 billion there. And up to the end of the century, there will be no more people in Europe and America. Most probably the same in Asia, or Asia will start shrinking, but in Africa, before it stops, it will be 1 or 2 more. This is how the world will look like in the future. And demographer knows fairly well for the next 40 years. Then we don't know. It may stop increasing and even start to decrease by 2060, 2070. But it may also continue to increase in the end of the year. These numbers assume a fall in fertility rate in Africa as has happened in Asia, just with some delay. This is not assumption that nothing happens. This is assumption that things happen, that health gets better, that schooling gets better, that access to contraceptives happen. Then it will be like this. If you split this to North America and South America, East Europe and West Europe, you get what I used to call the Old West. That will be less than 10% of the world population. 80% of the world population will live in Africa and Asia. The Atlantic will be backwaters. This will be the main sea of trade in the future. If you have some money and you want to invest, buy beach property in East Africa. Buy beach property in Somalia. It's a wonderful beach in Somalia. And my colleague, who is associate professor at Karolinska Institute, who is originally from Somalia, very good scientist, and she has done just that. She don't trust the Swedish pension system. Why should she? We have nasty, half-racist parties now. How can she trust that in 30 years she will be fairly treated in this country and her kids in this country? Better buy beach property in Somalia. So she trusts in her lead. If you knew how many capable Somali people there are around the world in the diaspora today, when peace and stability come back to their country, and when that solar energy in which we have the right to put hope in is working, you can desalinate seawater. We have wonderful, wonderful beaches in Somalia. So there it is, isn't it? And this is her breakfast table. I'm not talking about fantasy, I'm talking about what's happening today with the life of my Somali friends. And we have got the idea, the sort of vision of the world you get from Europe is very dangerous, because they don't look at the potential of change which is happening. How did we come to this? Well, in the past there were for thousands of years, centuries, there were these two parents, they got on average 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. Why didn't world population grow very fast? If two parents got 6 children, it should be 3 times as many people in one generation. How come? It was because 1, 2, 3, 4 tragically died before growing up to become parents themselves. In the old balance, death kept control of population. And the only place you can find that is in the rainforest today. You can still find these communities. It's a lie to say that people in rainforests live in ecological balance with nature. They never did. They die in ecological balance with nature. Tragically. Now, they're very knowledgeable about nature. They take the best care of nature they can. And, of course, their human rights should be defended. But they don't want to continue to live as they do. They want the kids to survive. And this is the tragedy. This has been the tragedy of human societies throughout history. Having to bury your child is the worst thing that can happen in life. Now, what happens then? 150 years ago, when every 4th Swede, 25% of the Swedish population moved to America, was it because they got more children? No, not at all. They continued to get on average 6. Reason was that more survived. And that increased survival of children broke the sustainability of the Swedish agricultural system, and there was no way to feed the Swedes until this mighty university was created and agricultural yields was increased and multiplied. My grandfather always admired this university. This is what took hunger away from us, because they increased the yields and they increased the productivity for working hard. And we don't have to move to America anymore. And then they went, and the same happened in the entire world, and we became 7 billion. It's as easy as that. And then some people say that, oh, it will continue like this. And some even use that nasty word, population explosion. I really dislike that word, because it means that you say that someone else's loved child is a terrorist bomb. Please stop using that word. Never ever. Say fast population growth. Don't make other people's children bomb. Because it will create conflict and bad emotions. It's very badly received in other parts of the world when we use that term. And then others want to be more scientific and say, oh, there's an exponential population growth in the world. Yeah, it was, I say. But for the last 50 years, it's a linear growth. Can you see? It's not exponential, it's linear. And how many times in universities have I heard that we have an exponential growth? Because universities don't know what it is, because they have emotions more. They don't use facts. We have a linear growth because the growth rate of the world population has been falling since 1968 when it was 2.1%. Now it's down to 1%. It's falling, 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 falling. That's why you have a straight line. If you mathematically think a little, you realize that you put money on a bank account, it increases linear, it means that the interest rate is falling. So this will not happen. What will happen then? Well, it will happen like this, the new balance, where death is no longer controlling. And we are almost there. We are almost there. We give birth in the world to 135 million children in the world. When I say we, I mean everyone. I mean everyone. 135 million children, 6 million lives. And yet the most common email that I get, that the economists get, and that Bill and Melinda Gates get about saving children's lives is, if you save the life of children, you kill the planet. So many environmental courses at universities end up with students thinking that you kill the planet if you save the children. It's bloody ignorant. Because we are far beyond that. Which are the countries in the world that have the fastest population growth today? It's Congo and Afghanistan. It's the countries with the highest child mortality that have the highest population growth. Because death is no longer controlling us. It's bedroom that controls population. It's bedroom. It's the forces of the bedroom. When the young couple feels secure, and when they say, we don't need a lot of children to fetch firewood and water for us. Let us bring children to this world who have a better life, who go to school. And we should have two so we can take care of them. And we know that they will survive now because we have the vaccines now, we have the better water supply, we have all this. We are almost there. 83% of the children of the world are vaccinated. Now, of course, if the Swedish population think that it's only 10-20% think that this is the case. Of course, they have wrong ideas about the world because they don't know. And then they are optimists or pessimists or all sorts of emotions that they should stick to in the bedroom with these emotions. They apply them on the world. This is what will happen. It's evening out. It's evening out like this. And why is it so? Because the number of babies per woman has fallen like this in Europe. My grandpa and grandma, they got 8 children. 1 died just at birth. The other 7 survived. We had wonderful Christmas. Lots of cousins. I have a brother. He dropped in 1 generation from 8 to 2. Talk to all the Swedes you say, go and let them tell you what it was. It was even that case that someone tried to show a condom to my grandpa and he got very upset, he didn't want to hear about it because he had the pride in how many kids he got. The big difference you have to change the mindset of the men to be proud of how the children are doing rather than how many he has. Yes. That is the big change. Women get that much faster. Women get that much faster. And they've got it throughout the world. Some are still in such a terrible situation in the poorest part of the world that they are not secure that kids will survive. They need the kids to go and fetch firewood because that forest is now going away and they have to walk further and further away from the forest. And there may be a first start of climate change which also make the forest grow less and people are growing. So they need the kids. But if they are helped with that, it will fall. This is what happened in America. A baby boom and then down. And Asia then? Well, Asia started out very high, and Paul Ehrlich got very nervous and coined population bomb, but then it went down like this. This is when Paul Ehrlich coined the term population explosion, and then it's still used when Asia is down here. Upgrade, please, upgrade. Upgrade. And still many people concerned about the environment are obsessed by the idea that it's the amount of people that is the problem. It's not the amount of people that is the problem. It's almost solved. It's how these people consume and how they produce what they consume. That is the problem. We can kill this planet with 1 billion people if we are stupid enough. It doesn't take more. Or give me 2 billion and we do it even faster. And we can live on this planet with 10 to 11 billion. There's no problem feeding the people, please. The problem is to feed the pigs. We already today eat 5 times more meat, the world population, than we need for our health. If we just moved away, I don't tell you how to be vegetarian. You can have meat, on Sunday. You can have meat, for a festivity. You can have your own salami, which you like. But we could reduce our way we consume. We could change our way we consume so we get healthier and we get more sustainable. There's no problem feeding 11 billion, let's face it. The problem is how they eat and how they produce that. This is Africa today. Yeah, it started just coming a little late, it's going down like this, and then it's leveling out here. If I would show you these per country, it looks like this. There we go. Every bubble is a country, the size is population. India, China are the biggest. The colors show where they're situated. Blue is Africa, green America, yellow Europe, and red is Asia. And this is 1963, 50 years ago. Here, number of babies per woman. Small families, large families. Here, child mortality, low child mortality, high child mortality. Look, 350 dying per 1,000 births. 1 child in 3 would die. Remember, 6 births, 2 dead. We have to go way back in history to find it worse. Child mortality has not kept control of world population during the last 50 years. It's not death. Death is not the solution. We love children so much we don't let them die since 50 years back. It's how many children we get that is the solution. And here, people got 6 children. There was almost no one in between. So this was the developing countries, these were the developed countries. This is Cuba. The only in between almost that we had. And look now what has happened when I start the work. What has happened? Have all those developing countries, have they lowered their child mortality? Have they started to apply family planning? How big is the gap today between these 2 groups? Has it decreased? Here we go. Ready, steady, go. 64, 65, it's falling. This is China. China is starting with family planning. India is following. Look, Brazil and Mexico don't care about the Vatican. They use the condom. They reduce the family size. Yeah, they're coming down. This is even Pakistan moving here. Indonesia is already there. African countries are following. There's no gap anymore. The gap is gone. The gap is gone. And the average in the world is 2.5 children per woman. It's enormous. Now, tragically, Afghanistan is there, Congo is there. Some countries are still there. Other African countries are down here. Because in general, you see, you have some Asians here. I think this may be Haiti, or I don't know, green, this is America. Yes, it's probably Haiti. And whereas most other Latin American countries are here. This divide is gone. The big divide is gone. 80% of the world population today live in societies where 2-child families is the norm. It's almost done, but it's not completed because these people, these countries still have a proportion of their population, not the entire population, but a proportion of their population living with high child mortality, and they need kids as labor. When Malala, remember that intelligent young woman in Pakistan that was so tragically attacked but survived the attack. When she was asked in the World Bank, why doesn't girls go to school? She replied to Kim, the head of the World Bank, it is because so many girls and boys live in so poor families, so they have to work to bring food to the family and they can't go to school. And then she took one more breath and said, but there are also places where girls are culturally stopped from going to school. She's extremely knowledgeable. It's just that she's not cited correctly because she's a woman. So people don't care to cite what she says. They write, she's an example of not going to school. She's brilliant. She's been to school. Her father is headmaster. Her mother tongue was a Pakistani language, and after being shot in the head, she speaks better English than I do. She's an example of the success, and that women, remember what I said, then they are stopped, after being gone to school. That they're stopped. So this has almost happened. She will get 2 kids around that. Huh? And this big change has already happened. Now, why will it continue to grow then? Why is the population continuing to grow? Well, many say it's the developing world that is happening. So that's why I'm going to show you this. Here I have money now. $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. Richest countries, poorest countries. This is today, 2012. Here child mortality, 4, 40, and 200, or even 400 up there. I made this sort of rubber scale, logarithmic scale. Don't get nervous, it's logarithmic scale. Means I compress the high incomes and I compress the high child mortality. And can you see, I get an almost linear relation between money and child mortality. You get richer, child mortality falls. That's why I love money. Because I can't stand the death of children. Having money is not enough. You also have to use it clever. If you use it like the United States of America, you end up there. Can you see? Relatively high child mortality in relation to the money. Other countries are more clever. You can be like Vietnam here, or you can be like Nigeria there. So there is an option for policy, but the message is strong. You can't get kids to survive if you don't have more than China is there, $6,000 per capita. We are putting a limit and saying that 20 is when you have a convergence of the world. We want all countries within 20 years to go down to 20 in child mortality. That can be achieved. Now, where does the cutoff go between developing countries and developed countries? United Nations have said that the developing countries should report the MDG. So I take that list who are reporting. And they are called developing countries and the others are developed. Now, let us see what happens if we draw the line, the United Nations official line. It goes like this. Goes down here and you think it's very clear, but suddenly they discover Qatar. And Qatar are Muslims and they have palm trees, so they are developing. This is the United States. And it goes down here and they discovered Singapore, the healthiest country in the world, but they're on the equator, so they must be developing. So that's why the line goes like this. This is South Korea, they are developing, you know. And it goes up here, Russia is developed. But Malaysia is not developed, Cuba is not developed, you know, Albania is developed, Sri Lanka is not developed, whereas Moldova is developed, and then it goes down there. This is the intellectual content of that concept. Cannot be used at universities, because you don't know what you mean with it. It's a continuous world, isn't it? The challenge is that it is no longer two groups. Neither when I look at mortality, neither when I look at money. We have countries all the way from high income, low child mortality, to low income and high child mortality, but most are in the middle. Can you see? Most are in the middle today. That's why the use of resources is going up. That's why the use of fossil fuel is going up. That's where more and more get cars. That's where they swift from vegetarian lifestyle to meat-eating lifestyle. It's not that. Don't think developing world any longer. Think as it is. Most are in the middle. Now, this is the two-child family. Catholics, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, Coptics in Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa has 1.6 children per woman, less than Stockholm. Fertility determinants is to get out of poverty. When these girls don't have to carry water, when the woman here can enjoy the blessing of the Industrial Revolution, the wheelbarrow. Look here, Mrs. Tapo, she's an entrepreneur. She carries water for free. This is how fossil fuel should be used to make durable plastics. Don't burn it. Use it for durable plastic and use it during a long time. And then these girls can go to school. Child should survive, female education, contraceptives, value change, and political commitment. Contraceptives are not there to get less children. Why do we use contraceptives? To have more sex. And that's the lovely thing of being married, living together with someone. It is, if you get modern life, and all countries are moving towards this, I let this be. The number of children will stop growing. If the adults will be growing. But I have to show you this more in detail. First, I will show you the whole world, what it is about. I have this educational tool here. Each row here is 1 billion people. Today, we have 2 billion below 15, 2 billion 15 to 30, 1 billion 15 to 45, 1 billion 45 to 60. This is me, my row, 60 years and above. This is the composition of the world population in an extremely simplified but fact-based way. Why are these missing? It's not because they are dead, they have died. It's because they were never born. Back then, when I was born, we were much less people born in the world, because there were less women giving birth. So even if each woman got more children, there were so much fewer women. So what will happen now in the future? I will show you now what will happen with world population. Why it is inevitable that we will be 3 billion. What happens to old people? Anyone from the medical science here? They die. What happens to you? You will get older, 15 years older, and then children will come. The old will die, the rest get older, children come. The old will die, the rest get older, children come, and what? You have 3 billion more. Did you see it? If you don't believe me and you have this at home, you can check them out. Environmental organization, even you, Johan, some years ago, you published a book where you suggested should be 10 billion, should be 8. Huh? You may not have written that chapter. Because you say we shouldn't have many people. How can you stop it? How can you stop it from being, if you want just 7, what do you do? You want just 8, what do? You kill them. But it's not allowed to kill people. It's not even allowed to propose to kill people. All people come out, we can't be more people in this world. They are proposing Holocaust, and it's even forbidden to deny the Holocaust that happens. What then about proposing Holocaust? If you are going to make statements about world population, please check your toilet paper rolls first. We have to prepare for 10 billion people. But on the other hand, the good news is we know more or less where we will level off, and it may decrease. But this idea that we should decrease the population by having fewer babies. There is one paper out from the World Watch Institute, someone has written that if we take action, if you look at that, what do they propose? Government should stop all benefits for having more than one child. It means that child allowances in Sweden is taken away. Subsidized daycare centers is taken away. Free schooling is taken away. You do these 3 things in Sweden, the fertility rate in Sweden will drop from 2 to 1. And you will lose next election. You don't have to take away democracy. This is out of the question. This is naive. It's fantasies. We have to take care of a world with 10 billion, maybe 11 billion, maybe 9.8 billion. Doesn't matter. The important thing, take away the obsession about the numbers. Look at what people consume and how they consume, how they deposit the waste, to really achieve something else. I can show you here. This is Europe, America, Africa, and Asia. The same if I split them now, instead of rows which show 1 billion, this is 100 million each of them. And then we go like this. The old die, the rest grow older, and children come. The old die, the rest grow older, and children come. The old die, the rest grow old. It's pretty monotonous demography, isn't it? Huh? Children come, the old die, and they grow older, and then the other come. There we have the inevitable fill-up of adults. And you see they get more and more in the children. The reason why the number of children stays the same is that it decreases in Asia and increases in Africa. So there's a truly challenge to get all people, to help all people to get out of extreme poverty, to provide contraceptives and education. That has to be done immediately, but you don't need any environmental reason for that. Decent policy, human rights, health reason, you name it, the will of families. You have all other reasons for it. It's how these people consume, how they produce, that it should be the focus. Huh? And because we already want to get people out of poverty. We want people to choose themselves. And across religions, they choose this. The number of children per woman in Christian and Muslim countries are the same. There's no difference. All big faiths in the world, and even small faiths, they can adapt to the modern world. Then every faith has their extremes. Give me a religion and I'll take a small group that has 6 children per woman. You can find that all over. But those are exceptions. Huh? Then, you know, how fast the children will stop increasing in Africa depends on how fast Africa gets out of extreme poverty, and that's very much due to success in agriculture. And if you want the world sustainable. I avoid the word sustainable because it's being overused. You should restrict it. I saw a study 2 days ago in Norway that said that within 17 years from now we cannot discuss the world development any longer. Because with the increase of the number of sustainable, the word sustainable in these texts have increased so steeply. So in 17 years more, all words in articles written about the world will only contain the word sustainable. So it will be sustainable. It's a good concept, but it gets overused. Let's use it precise. Let's use it precise for what it means and what it is. You know? So, and Asia is decreasing. Why is Asia decreasing? Why is Asia decreasing? This is the old people. There will be some who live longer. That's not the issue. It's being over-exaggerated. There will be, in fact, if I wake them up to life, I run this back, it will not be like this. There will be one more because of the old people here. Paul Ehrlich is still alive. That's why we have one more up here. Because in the good countries now we live a little longer. But this is not the big thing, this is the small thing. The inevitable fill-up of adults is this. And it's worse to kill people at this age than to kill them at this age. And I don't like killing them anyway. Now will we have less down there? Yes, maybe we have. But why do we have that in Asia? Why is the number of children diminishing in Asia? Is it due to one-child policy in China? No. China has 1.66 children per woman. But the government tells them they should have one. The Communist Party tells them they should have one, and they get 1.66. It's called civil obedience. But there are other countries. Taiwan has 1.26, and they don't have a one-child policy. Hong Kong has one, Singapore has one. So why do they, Japan, what does Japan have? South Korea is 1.3, but Portugal is 1.3. Why is it so low fertility rate? Is it because, we are concerned about the environment, we use too much fossil fuel, so we get fewer babies? No, it's not. I understood this at an investment conference in Hong Kong when I lectured. I ended up sitting next to the most successful young banker in Hong Kong. She was only 37 years old. And she was so knowledgeable. She even knew the energy issues, the sustainability issues. She was thinking about everything. She was handling investment, telling me what would happen. And I realized she only works. So at the dessert I asked her, do you have a family? No, I work all day, I don't have a family. Do you want to have a family? And she looked out of the window and she said, yes, I'm thinking about children every day. It's the idea of a husband I can't stand. That's why you have few children. Gender equity doesn't come automatically. Gender equity doesn't come automatically with environmental concern, it doesn't come automatically with economic growth, it doesn't come automatically with social progress. It seems to be a process of its own. And it's a fight of its own. And it's very badly developed in Asia. So if you get the main threat, if you consider, sorry for using the word, the main risk of getting one extra up here, or one extra somewhere here, is that you get gender equity in Asia. Because if the Asian women start to give birth as the Swedish women are, wow, we will get more than 11 million. So if you are concerned about population size, what you want is to take away those benefits from the government in Sweden. I've talked with Åsa Romson about that in the Swedish Environmental Party, and she doesn't think it's a good idea. And if she doesn't think it's a good idea, you shouldn't be bothered about how people have kids on the other places in the world. You should just help them to choose themselves, and that is enough. And I think the risk with population is that we take away the focus of the environmental challenge from where it should be. That's the risk. Someone else, people, if they don't fuck so much on that continent, it will be fine. But it's not that, it's wrong. And this is not about optimists, it's just because it's bad. So where are we here with the money? Income distribution. I have one thing more I want to show you. I know I'm slightly over time here. Let me just get away that. I want to show you this. That is the 7 billion people in the world, distribution roughly with the economic level. That one has fire, this one has a light bulb. This one has a refrigerator and a washing machine. They have all these sort of consumers goods. This is what I said. It's about how you consume and how you produce it. They fly on airplane. This is where you have a bicycle, here you have a motorbike. How is the fossil fuel used? Oil, coal, gas, nuke, bio and hydro, and here comes solar and Take it as a challenge. We want to increase that. I am the first one to want to invest more in science and development and application of solar and wind, no doubt. But you have to know how small it is. Now, how is the fossil distributed? The richest billion use half of it. The second richest used half of what's left. The third richest use half of what's left. You are at 87%. 3 billion use 87%. Don't divide, develop, developing. That's not it. It's the richest 3 billion where the challenge is. And where will it increase? It will increase there and there. That's why we have the challenge with fossil fuel in the next year. And the rest of the world is like this. There's nothing. If Mozambique starts a coal plant to get electricity so that people can take care of their kids better, that has nothing to do with climate change. They are 0.16 ton per person today. And the problem is, this is the worst thing is when we think it's the number of people here doesn't matter because they consume so much. It doesn't matter in the next 50 years. And environmental problems, as you will show, they are so urgent, so we can't sit and think about solving things 50 to 100 years from now. We have to act now. We have to do things now. And things now is here. Now, how will those people, why should they stop when they are lowered? The problem I have is the arrogance. These people here, they sit up here and they say, you cannot live like us, that wouldn't work. The most common statement I have with students in this city 15 years ago, all Chinese cannot have a car. Of course they can. The Swedes have a car, Chinese can have a car. Are you racist? What is the problem? And the Chinese heard it and they bought Volvo. I don't say that everyone should have a car. No, I want us to construct our lives and our living so we can live in another way. But the ideas and the attitude that these ones who are the biggest burden of the world should solve the problems by people acting different over there. That's not the issue. All things that take the attraction away from where the main problem is, I think it's dangerous. This is where children die. 7 million children die per year and they die there. Burning fossil fuels save the lives of children. This is an unfortunate reality in the world today. We have to change that reality. But you don't change it by demanding that the health service of Africa have solar energy and Sweden have not. You can't make a cesarean section, you can't make a cesarean section on solar power. Because to sterilize that scissor and that knife, you need lots of electricity during 20 to 40 minutes, and then you need so many batteries, so it's out of question, it becomes too costly. You need a gas generator, petrol generator. It's the only way you can do it. So it's like the whole idea that problem should be solved over. Of course, if you solve the technology and the policy here, then you can put demand on the rest of the world. And the difference here this is the challenge. This is carbon dioxide per person. Carbon dioxide per person here, the size of the bubble is the total carbon dioxide emission. China is indeed bigger than US. Let me get to the last year. China is not bigger than US, but they are at a much lower level per person. I hate this. Oh, China needs so much, they are the problem. You have to count per person. I was in Davos, the World Economic Forum. This was now 5-10 years ago. And all the Minister of Energy were sitting, and all the leaders of the biggest energy companies were sitting there. And they were all talking about how Asia and how India and how others should do things differently. And then the minister from India got angry and he stood up and said, "It was you who destroyed the climate. It was you in the Western world who burned all that coal. And you put us in this situation." But we forgive you. And it became done because we can never punish anyone retroactively. You didn't know what you were doing. Didn't know what you were doing. And that's why we're on this situation. But on this day we count per capita. So this day, and Kyoto is not doing that. It's percent decrease. We have to count per capita. It's the only way forward. And why do I say that? Because I think that climate change is even more severe than those things who want to count percent decrease. It's really severe, but it's not now. It's in the future. We have at least 4 dangerous things. Climate and environmental change and the planetary boundaries. That's number 1. War number 2. The Islamic State poses an enormous challenge on us. Almost no one had imagined what we are facing now. They are taxing 8 million people. They're increasing by the day. It's a completely new challenge. It's absolutely the same as Nazi in its severity, potential severity. How it will develop, we don't know. Ebola is very dangerous at present because it's going beyond what it has done before. And it's due to extreme poverty, planetary boundaries, war, extreme poverty, and instability of the economic system. You saw what happens on Wall Street. And perhaps most dangerous of all, number 5, what we can't imagine. So don't call me optimist, because you know how nervous Johan is just for this reason, and I have 5 to worry about. Thank you very much.